Hello and welcome to Airheads, a not-so-serious look at the serious business of royal rumours, gossip and gowns. I'm Tom.
And I'm Maeve.
And let's start by congratulating Princess Beatrice.
And Edo Mapelli-Mozzi, the pair of them welcomed their first child together recently. A baby girl, whom they have named Sienna Elizabeth Mapelli-Mozzi.
This name announcement came and I had, to be honest, totally forgotten that she'd had a baby.
Yeah, I did remember that she was pregnant recently and I wondered what was going on with that. But yeah, she went into hospital and then like the next day or 2 days later they announced the baby had arrived. But they shared the news of the baby's name with a picture of the baby's footprints.
Mm-hmm.
Not the baby's face or any part of the baby's body. And yes, they shared the name of the baby, which I think is a very interesting choice, very non-traditional for them to go with an Italian name, Sienna, or possibly a reference to Sienna Miller.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, in a way it's very posh English at this point. But yeah, it was interesting to see the Italian choice. It's obviously been hailed by the Daily Mail as a touching tribute to the Queen, because it has Elizabeth in it.
I thought all these kids had Elizabeth in their name in some form or other.
Yeah, at this point, I think if you don't include it, it's, a
deliberate fuck you to the Queen.
Yeah, and you'll be cut out of the will.
I want to talk about the most exciting thing that happened this week, which was a super star-studded, glamorous, royal premiere of the new Bond film, No Time to Die, attended by Prince William, Kate Middleton, Prince Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles. The whole 4 of them were there.
I know, so many royals for this one film. I mean, we have all been waiting a very long time to see this, so it was good.
Oh, I can't blame them for wanting to go.
Yeah.
I had thought it would just be Will and Kate because Will is president of BAFTA. But Charles, as we know, is a fucking huge Bond fan. He's a massive fan. We talked about it like in one of our first episodes when he visited the set. That's how long ago it was. And he thankfully reminded everyone on Instagram by reposting those same pics of him on set.
Because, like, you know that when he's bombing around in his wine-powered Aston Martin or whatever it is, he is definitely thinking, I'm just like Bond.
Camilla has to say, you're just like Bond every time. But listen, nobody was looking at Charles and Camilla, or Will even. All eyes were on Kate.
Yeah, she wore this incredible gold gown by Jenny Packham. It was so sparkly and so glam.
Yes, it had a cape, it had a sort of spiral detail around the waist, so many sequins. Her hair and makeup felt very different. She had like this huge updo, loads makeup, false eyelashes, the whole shebang. I thought she looked sensational. I think this is maybe my favourite Kate look. Probably the best she's ever looked, maybe other than her wedding.
Yeah, and I mean, it also benefited from the fact that it's like a pure glamour moment from the royals, which we haven't really seen for like a couple of years at this point. So it made like a really big impression on me. I was like, oh yeah, this is kind of what royals do. But I think even by royal standards, Kate looked very different to how she's been before at these kind of events.
Yeah, and there was a little bit of an homage to what Princess Diana wore when she went to a Bond premiere, in the sort of shape of it, especially with the waist detail and the sort of cape effect that Diana's dress had.
But it wasn't like a custom gown for Kate. It comes from this collection that Jenny Packham has designed to commemorate 60 years of the Bond films.
Yeah, and I quite liked that because it wasn't like, just give me this dress Diana did, but in gold or something.
Yeah.
And I thought she looked amazing. I did, wonder about this collection was inspired by the film's legacy of powerful women.
Which is like a very generous reading of the films, I think. But it did make me wonder, who do you think Kate's favourite Bond girl is?
I can't believe nobody asked her.
Yeah.
Do you think she's a Pussy Galore fan? Honestly, I think her favourite is probably Rosamund Pike. Miranda Frost.
Yeah.
In which one is that?
Die Another Day.
In Die Another Day.
That makes so much sense to me. Yeah.
But that's what I would have asked her if I met her. I did enjoy watching them meet all the celebrities, and I thought it was funny that Billie Eilish was there because she obviously sings the Bond theme. And I noticed that Billie's Instagram post, she did like a carousel, and the only picture she had of the royals was her meeting Kate, even though she met all of them.
Yeah.
That was funny.
I also saw people saying like, oh, Billie Eilish looks in awe of Kate when she meets them. I'm like, Billie Eilish is not in awe of Kate Middleton. I'm sorry. But yeah, as much as I loved this look, I was really bummed out by what people were saying about it online. People were getting so personal and talking about Kate's body in particular.
Yeah, and I really hate seeing this anytime, but especially like in our social media comments. We get a lot of comments like this. I guess people think that they're like funny jokes or that we might find them funny, and we absolutely don't.
Yeah.
And we think that they're revolting things to say about Kate and completely inappropriate, and we can't delete them fast enough.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we obviously believe in being critical of all the royals and all people in positions of power and privilege, but there is so much difference between commenting on someone's words or their behaviour or their work ethic and talking about their body.
Yeah, and obviously we are often the first people to criticise Kate when she is taking a 10-week holiday, or appearing to be very lazy in her work, or positioning herself as some kind of expert in early childhood development. But I think I would really appreciate if the people that listen to this podcast could refrain from making those kind of personal attacks when they talk to us, because it's just really unnecessary and really cruel, I think.
And we'll be blocking you in exactly the same way as we block the people who leave comments about Camilla and the people that leave comments about Meghan.
I was kind of struck when people were saying that they thought this look was calculated to try and steal focus from Prince Harry and Meghan's tour in New York.
Yeah, so this is the New York trip that they made to appear at a Global Citizen event. Global Citizen is an organisation that they've worked with before. It's one that seeks to defeat poverty, defend the planet and demand equality. And as part of this trip to New York, they also went to the UN building and they had a meeting at the World Health Organization to talk about vaccine equality. They visited One World Trade Center and they met Mayor de Blasio. And we got absolutely loads of Meghan's workwear looks.
Yeah, I saw some speculation that she may have been styled for this trip by the same team that styled her Time magazine cover, Claire and Nina Hallworth, who are also the stylists and costume designers for Jennifer Aniston on and off The Morning Show, which makes a lot of sense to me because they have that kind of similarly like expensive lady, like sophisticated vibe.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's really funny that Jennifer Aniston uses them both on and off the show.
Because she looks the same.
But my favourite look
and mine
and yours was Meghan's red jacket and matching red trousers from Loro Piana. It's like a reversible jacket, so the inside of it is this really bright red, which you get as like pops of colour at the cuffs and the lapel. And I really liked the cut of the suit. It's kind of like boxy.
Yeah, I thought it was stunning. I love that berry red colour. I think we've said like 100 times in this podcast that we wish Meghan would wear more colour, and whenever she does, it looks spectacular on her. And this was just such a highlight for me because I did find the rest of her outfits were kind of boring. Like, I know some of them were meant to be, respectful and sombre given the occasion, but they didn't give us a whole lot to look at or talk about fashion-wise, whereas this was such a statement and just totally amazing.
Yeah, she wore it to visit a school in Harlem where she was promoting early literacy. And among other things, while she was there, she read her book, The Bench, to some second graders.
Yeah, I saw she said that this was the first time she'd read it to anyone other than her own kids. So that must have been nice.
Yeah.
The one other notable outfit I wanted to mention from this trip was at the Global Citizen live concert. She wore this Valentino mini dress, which was very cute, but she wore it with a Lady Dior bag, which I thought was very significant because Princess Diana wore that bag a lot. Some people called it the Lady Di bag because she wore it so frequently, and it's such a distinctive style, and to me it does feel quite retro or quite 90s in a way that is quite far from what I would see as Meghan's usual style.
Yeah.
So it felt like a very obvious homage to Diana, but what Meghan did with her one was to have it personalised with DSSOS, which is apparently meant to be a reference to the Duchess of Sussex title, but I thought it looked so naff.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that. Like, I'm not 100% on board with these kind of personalizations anyway, but I just think that even the way DSSOS looks, it's just like a bit ungainly or something. Like, DOS would have done the trick, I think.
Yeah, it just seemed kind of unnecessarily clunky, but we know she loves a monogram.
Yeah, that's true. But back to Kate. So this criticism where people were saying that was this gown meant to distract from Harry and Meghan seems to be kind of somewhat related to something a royal source told The Sun. They said, there are going to be some very nervous glances from the palace because Harry and Meghan are effectively following the royal model. The palace will be anxious that the causes they support and people they hang around with does nothing to embarrass the Queen. Kate and Will show how the job of working royals is done. They won't be impressed with Harry and Meghan acting as quasi-royals and courting publicity after claiming they quit for privacy.
I did think it was worth talking about this because it's something that it bothers me a lot. You know, this kind of narrative makes it seem like, or makes, you know, it seems designed to make us think that Harry and Meghan's actions are the main threat to the monarchy. And, you know, in making it all about Harry and Meghan, that purposefully ignores what is going on with Prince Andrew and Prince Charles. And as we know, Prince Andrew is involved in this enormously embarrassing and honestly disgraceful lawsuit with Virginia Giuffre over accusations that he raped her when she was underage. And Prince Charles is also involved in the Cash for Honour scandal that we've talked before, which poses serious questions about his judgment as a future king. And those things are much more serious over in the UK than whatever the fuck Harry and Meghan are doing in America. And like, even though they might be a little bit jealous that there are better pictures of Harry and Meghan and that people are talking about Harry and Meghan, that doesn't pose the same threat to the future of the institution of the monarchy in the same way that what is going on with Andrew and Charles does. And I think people making it all about Harry and Meghan falls into that trap.
Yeah, I mean, having royal sources pointing fingers at Harry and Meghan, is that like in the hopes that we're going to forget that the Queen herself has been harbouring Andrew as he tried to avoid being served papers after, you know, being accused of raping a child? Like, don't fall for this kind of what seems to me to be a quite obvious smokescreen.
I know, and it bothered me as well when people were saying like, oh, Kate pulled this dress out because she wanted to upstage Meghan's outfits in New York. Like, Kate knew she'd be going to this Bond premiere weeks ago. She would likely have been planning this outfit long before the New York trip. And I think, you know, this is just like a tangent, but the idea that she copied Meghan by wearing a dress with a cape, like Kate wore that caped McQueen dress in Oslo 3 years ago, and the stuff about her getting her eyebrows waxed in a different shape to copy Meghan, all that stuff is just a distraction, I think.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, that being said, it doesn't mean that this dress wasn't a very tactical choice, but the tactic was to distract from the Charles and Andrew mess.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, this has come up a lot for us with so much of the discussion around the royals, especially, you know, with royal watchers, makes everything the royals do about Harry and Meghan. And I think as anti-monarchists, it's important to be careful that, you know, we don't ignore the other scandals that are potentially and should be more damaging to the institution of the monarchy right now.
Yeah.
I think there is a danger of playing into the royal hands by falling for that narrative.
Yeah, because there's so many reasons for the royals to be worried about things, and they're reasons that are specifically to do with their own behaviour and not, you know, what Harry and Meghan might do next or what the motives might be. And there is no doubt that the royals fucked over Harry and Meghan. We've talked about it a lot. Everyone at this point knows about it. It's very unlikely people are going to forget about it. But something that isn't talked about enough is that the royals continue to fuck over everyone in this country every single day through their legal exemptions, through being terrible landlords, through being racist employers, through being a drain on public funds. I could go on, and we have gone on this podcast. So, yeah, we really mustn't fall for this smokescreen, or we just risk doing them a huge favour.
Yeah.
Like, let's not get bogged down in who wore a caped dress first or better or whatever, because, like, there's more at stake here.
Yeah, let's talk about the Queen harbouring Prince Andrew so that he doesn't get served with legal papers.
Yeah. I mean, it might be worth mentioning at this point that the Queen is incredibly capable of embarrassing herself without any help from her kids or her grandkids. I don't know if listeners saw this plan for the Platinum Jubilee medals.
Yeah, as we know, next year the Platinum Jubilee is planned, and that will be to mark 70 years since the Queen's ascension to the throne. But one of the most kind of ridiculous plans that we've heard about is for the Platinum Jubilee medal, which is where apparently around 400,000 medals will be awarded to frontline members of the emergency and prison services, as well as the armed forces who completed 5 years of work, to show the monarch's gratitude for their public service.
I mean, that's obviously fine, although I do feel like a lot of people would prefer a pay rise to what is essentially another clap for our carers on the doorstep. But what is crazy to me is that the royals seem to count themselves among this number of exceptional public servants.
It's insane. Like, the Daily Express had a source who said the award will also be given to members of the royal family, even if they don't work for the firm, as it is a purely commemorative gesture. What bullshit. That is a slap in the face.
Can you imagine having, like, worked on a COVID ward or, like, in an essential shop? Like, every day you're risking your life during the pandemic to help people, and then you're given this award by the Queen that she not only gives to Andrew as well, but also dismisses it as saying it's basically meaningless, it's just commemorative.
I know. Prince Andrew, who has done nothing for this country over the course of the entire pandemic because he's basically been shamed into hiding for the last 2 years, him receiving one of these medals just makes the whole exercise feel really insulting.
Yeah, I'd be so pissed off. But I mean, it is a while away, and it does seem like the next 9 months could be hopefully quite a turbulent time for Andrew, so he might not even get it in the end. But even the idea of him getting one is incredibly embarrassing for the Queen.
I don't see it happening for Andrew.
Yeah, he'll probably just ask his mum for £14 million instead.
I want to go back to Will and Kate, though, because there was one PR move that did seem to me to have the trademark stamp of Cambridge jealousy all over it. This was the paparazzi photo of the Cambridges having a pub lunch with all 3 of their kids. Or as the Sun put it, the pair spent quality time with their children in a heartwarming scene families around the country would recognise. Recognise as what? People eating at a bench.
The Sun read the press release there.
I love this quote from the witness.
Yeah, the witness said, "It was amazing to see how down-to-earth the family were. It would have been easy to miss them and just assume they were any other family." I mean, they didn't miss them. Let's be very clear about that. They were laughing and chatting and clearly enjoying each other's company. They were eating outside, I suppose, because it was easier for the children.
I might have cut that line, maybe. Because it was easier for the paparazzi photographers, maybe.
There was no security around, just them chilling like any other family.
Chilling?
Does Will chill? Well, Will's had a burger and chips.
Wills? Who's this witness calling him Wills?
Yeah. They had their pet dog, a spaniel, with them. That's cute. And they were all laughing. There was one particularly touching moment where one of the children got upset because their food was too hot. William was... Oh, he's William now, not Wills. William was so fast to reassure them and sort them out. It was fantastic to see.
Fantastic, like a literal fantasy.
Yeah, like Lord of the Rings.
Because this would never happen unless there was a camera pointed at them.
Yeah. This is the equivalent of seeing a hobbit. But the Sun makes it clear that this is Will showing himself as a modern dad.
Okay.
Modern dads are all over the temperature of food.
I think the intention behind this was very much, the Cambridges are just like us.
Yeah.
We haven't seen this kind of thing in a while. We're like every other family. We do normal things like getting the shopping from Waitrose and, you know, buying costumes in Sainsbury's or whatever. Like, I do have to say, though, like with all those other times we've heard about this, it's by design that we hear about this. Like, you don't just get lucky with this kind of photo. As we know, the Cambridges are very strict about photos of their children.
Yeah, and we heard in the past when news sites have run stories with images taken by passers-by and onlookers of the kids, they've been asked by the palace to take them down. So this kind of seemed like a pretty obvious tip-off to us.
Yeah, and the timing is just so blatantly obvious.
Because unlike a massive gold gown, this is the kind of thing that you can pull together really quickly.
It's just so embarrassing, and they take us for idiots. Although I guess it did work, you know, some people were very endeared by this.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Cambridges in Ireland.
Oh yeah, so Will and Kate went to Derry in Northern Ireland.
For the first time.
And Kate marked the occasion with a great purple suit by Amelia Wickstead. And she wore it to a very pressing engagement she had with a tarantula called Charlotte.
Talk about the suit first, because I think this was a slightly unusual, but less unusual at this point choice for Kate, because I think she has been making trouser suits more of her kind of day wear uniform over the last few years, rather than that parade of coat dresses we had for so long. I do think it was interesting that she wore this very bright purple suit with a navy roll neck and accessories. I thought that was like softer than black. I don't love it, but then I also feel like maybe if she'd had like a white or a cream, would it have been a bit like Austin Powers-y? Like,
yeah, definitely. I mean, ideally it would have been with like another bright colour or something that would be more to my taste for it. But I can see why Kate would go for a navy, even though I didn't really like the effect of it.
I did think the purple, though, did feel very fresh and quite regal.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed to me like a colour that the Queen would wear in one of her kind of colour-blocked ensembles. So I thought it was good to see this kind of colour in a royal context, but in quite a, like, modern cut.
I noticed that Will just wore one of his boring suits, but he wore it with a knitted tie, which I don't think he should wear that again.
Yeah, I don't think he has the right nerd credentials to rock a knitted tie.
But anyway, they arrived by private jet.
Oh, right, yeah.
And they went to visit the new medical school at Ulster University, where they met with students during a display by the Mobile Zoo Kids Farm, which brings animals on campus to help students deal with anxiety and mental health issues. And that's where Kate met the tarantula named Charlotte. And Will met a snake, whom he described as very cool. I wish there was video of that moment.
Yeah, that's really good. I was really impressed by the way Kate was so cool about handling a tarantula.
Yeah, because she said like, "Oh, can I hold that, please?" And I don't know how these things work. I would imagine they would have been told what was going to be there and maybe asked like, "Are you okay with there being like a tarantula or a snake?" But she looked so at ease, like very cool, calm, and collected. Yeah, with this tarantula, it made for fantastic pictures.
Yeah, very good, especially. Well, now we're in October, Halloween month.
They had some drinks, well, half pints of Guinness and Tato's at the Students' Union, where they were quizzed on how to pronounce some Irish names. Do you want to read out these names and show everybody how to pronounce them?
Yeah, sure, no problem. Aoife, Anya, Cathal, and I'm gonna struggle with this one. Davy?
No. Try again.
Daffy.
Tom! Dahi.
Dahi. Okay.
Well, you too may have joked like, Will, I'm going to have another drink. I'm not doing very well at this.
I mean, I certainly would have said that if I'd only had half a pint of Guinness. Come on.
They also learned some local expressions, including "give us a duke at that," "let's head out for a wee dander," "this is pure wick, so it is," and "all right, mucker."
Oh, I bet Will really enjoyed that.
He did say mucker was a term that he had used in the military.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I feel like that's more familiar than the other phrases here.
They then went to visit the City of Derry Rugby Club and had an outfit change. Kate changed into Lululemon, which I thought was a bit over-egging the yummy mummy of it all.
Yeah.
Why didn't you wear Sweaty Betty or something British?
Yeah, it was very Californian. Very Hollywood of her.
Will wore like chinos and a shirt and a jumper. It was such a weird contrast between their outfits. Kate looked like she was going to go for a run and Will was like going to the pub or something.
Yeah. You look like a poster boy for M&S.
People do always love to see Will and Kate doing sports though. I did find it notable that the Kensington Royal Instagram account, not going to call it by its new name, posted a picture of the two of them, one above the other, of them kicking the ball, and asked people to vote who has the better technique. Had a little poll sticker. And when I voted, it was Kate was at 84% and Will was at 16%. I think that was like 3 or 4 hours after it started.
I'm really glad that you brought your like extensive football expertise to bear on this vote.
Me just like dumbly pressing Duchess, like as if I was ever going to vote for Will. I did think though, like, is this a smart idea for Will, who, you know, is famously jealous? And
Yeah.
I know they're very competitive and that's like part of the fun with both of them, but when Kate is like 100,000 times more popular than Will, is this the best idea?
Yeah, we've seen how that doesn't always play out well with royal men. But like you said, it was their first trip to Derry and it was described as a relaxed, informal engagement. It was kept a secret up until them arriving, which is kind of the norm for trips to Northern Ireland for the royals for security reasons. But we were kind of wondering about why they were going to Northern Ireland right now.
Yeah, I mean, they had met some of the students at the Ulster University on Zoom before, and like, you know, this was like a totally normal engagement and stuff for them to do. But it did strike me that, you know, could this be them trying to pay more attention to Northern Ireland because of all of the events marking the centenary of the formation of Northern Ireland and the ongoing debate around partition that we mentioned on the last episode? Like,
Yeah.
was this sort of a little mini charm offensive to fend off any thoughts of reunification?
Yeah.
How successful it was, but I wonder, was that maybe part of the thinking behind it?
It would kind of make sense to me because, you know, we saw how quickly they responded to all the talk about like Scottish independence last year with a, you know, big blowout train tour at precisely the wrong time. So it kind of, yeah, makes sense to me that with all the stuff we had in the papers about Michael D that we talked about in the last episode, that they would be like, oh God, people talking about Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
Let's get over there. But as we said, basically all of this has been distraction tactics from the royals. But we're going to talk about the guy that they don't want us to.
Prince Andrew.
Yeah. So we got an update on an issue that we talked about a while ago in an episode called The Quack Pack, in which we went into Andrew's weird finances in a bit more detail. So back in 2014, when Epstein was alive, and only, I think, 3 years after he'd lent Fergie money, Andrew bought an £18.3 million ski chalet in Switzerland that it's not clear how he could possibly afford.
Yeah.
So instead of buying it outright, he was going to pay off the money in a series of annual payments.
Except he stopped with about £5 million left to pay. And the previous owner, a socialite named Isabel de Rouve, took him to court to try to get the rest of the money.
So this week we found out that Andrew is close to selling the chalet to meet this final payment, and so Isabel has decided to drop her legal action against him. This means that Andrew will possibly be the only royal without any property holdings.
Yeah, because he doesn't own Royal Lodge. He's renting it on that insanely cheap lease. But I do think this is something that probably would matter to someone with an ego the size of Andrew's.
Yeah, I feel like he'd probably have to feel like he's in quite a difficult patch to consider selling his only property. And it made me think, is this like a quick fix so that he doesn't have to spin too many legal plates at the same time?
Or to get an influx of cash when he needs it, possibly.
Yeah, that's true. It is interesting that the Queen didn't give him the money, which is something that we had thought might happen. We thought she might just pay for the rest of the chalet to save face and stop people talking about it.
Yeah, but now that one of his cases is closed, it might be worth taking a closer look at his legal strategy going forward in his other, far more high-profile case brought against him by Virginia Roberts Giuffre. As we spoke about in the last episode, Andrew has finally accepted that he has been served with papers in her civil suit in which she accuses him of rape in the first degree, sexual battery, and sexual abuse.
But according to a source close to Andrew, who was talking to Tom Sykes at the Daily Beast, he regards the lawsuit as an opportunity rather than a threat. The source said, "This is Mrs. Giuffre's civil case. She has brought it and has actively invited legal scrutiny of her own version of events. This provides an opportunity rather than a threat because it finally enables the Duke and his team to properly scrutinise the multiple inconsistencies in her narrative." Okay.
Camilla Tominey had a piece in the Telegraph going into detail about this new strategy, which I think we said before is coming from Andrew's new American lawyer, whose name is Andrew Brettler. And this strategy is essentially going after Virginia's credibility by bringing up inconsistencies in her story. And as we said before, this is very different from Andrew's previous strategy, which was basically just like pretend nothing's happening and hope it goes away. But Camilla Tominey says of this new strategy, "Until now, the palace and his inner circle of advisors have been keen to resist any mudslinging at Mrs. Giuffre for fear of being criticised for victim blaming in the post-Me Too era."
A real rebrand of the stonewalling,
Yeah.
I think. Like, it was actually, for her own benefit. But now their strategy is just victim blaming, I think.
Yeah, it's unsurprising.
Yeah.
Some of these inconsistencies that Andrew is keen to emphasise, one of them is Virginia's description of him drinking when she met him in Tramp, the London nightclub, because he doesn't drink alcohol. You might remember him saying in the Notorious Panorama interview, "I don't know where the bar is. I don't drink. I don't think I've ever bought a drink in Tramp whenever I was there."
So this is a description that comes from Virginia's journal, which was leaked online. And it didn't really paint Andrew as like a big drinker. She only wrote that he did not hesitate to grab us both an alcoholic cocktail and said, "We took a few sips before going dancing."
I think it was mostly just like he was sweaty and dancing horribly, so we inferred that he was drunk, but I don't think she explicitly said it.
Well, yeah, the Daily Beast comments that the notion that in a packed nightclub, Virginia Giuffre might have mistakenly believed Andrew had ordered an alcoholic drink seems unlikely to demolish her credibility, which I think makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
But Camilla Tominey also raises the issue of whether it was 4 encounters or 3 that Virginia had with Andrew. But these 2 inconsistencies seem very minor in comparison to the massive inconsistencies in Andrew's story, not least of which is the fact he denies ever having met her, despite the fact that he's got a photograph of her in Ghislaine Maxwell's house.
Yeah.
Which seems like a bigger inconsistency in your story to have to explain away.
We did talk before about how Andrew Brettler was trying to get access to Virginia's out-of-court settlement agreement that she made with Epstein in 2009, which I believe is the same one that Alan Dershowitz used to get her case against him dropped. And Brettler said he believed the agreement absolves our client from any and all liability. And now Virginia's team have agreed to hand over those documents for review by Andrew's team, so we'll see what develops from that.
Yeah, that'll probably be the next big thing we have to talk about regarding Andrew's case.
In terms of what else is coming up, we're both so excited for the Earthshot Prize.
Yeah, it's only like 14 sleeps until the Earthshot Prize. Very exciting.
But we will be back maybe sooner than then, to talk about whatever else the royals get up to. Thank you so much for listening and have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, great gowns, beautiful gowns.